Welcome back, everyone, to Movie Howl. Thank you once again for joining us. My name is Joe, joined as always by my irreverent and stylish co-host Ryan. Where here we talk about movies. Occasionally, might find a video game review, but we review movies and go on tangents. Is basically what we do here.
That's it.
Tangents, really,
tangents, and dead air. But I have software for the dead air. Out of our last video, there were 550 cuts to remove dead air.
Wow,
that is just a
just really. I got goals. We got goals here.
Mm-hmm.
So this time we are going to review not really a movie. It's not really a TV show. It's this
could be
kind of could be.
It's a miniseries.
Miniseries was from the BBC.
Mm-hmm.
It's on Netflix right now. Dracula.
However you want to put that. Netflix in association with the BBC or the other way around, but it's definitely a BBC production. Given the actors in it and everything.
Yeah, for sure. But this was you had watched it and you kept recommending me to watch it because this was a very.
I don't know if I want to take credit for recommending it. I definitely told you about it, and I told you the things that were frustrating me.
Bruh.
All right.
And you asked me on more than one occasion, have you watched it yet?
Well, you said, it's interesting. I'm going to have to watch it.
This was, and I think you were right. A lot about what you said. I don't know how best for us to go about discussing this. This is a story of Dracula. So it has several of the tropes that you would think of when you think of, oh, what does a Dracula movie have? One of the things that I want to say just from the outset of this, that I really enjoyed this Dracula.
Yeah.
I enjoyed the actor who played them, and I really enjoyed, there was a scene early on in the first episode, I think it was early on, where he does the like face Dracula thing. It was very, the way they shot it, the way it was colored was very reminiscent of the Bela Lugosi old Dracula movie. There's a particular scene,
yeah, where the shadows around his face, but he's
right. He does it
way
like he's getting ready to bite, but it's like one of those iconic.
There's a couple
pictures that you would see when they.
Yeah, it looks like this was definitely part of the storyboard. We have to hit this face.
They do.
They wanted to get like the posters.
Exactly, that exact specific thing, and I did appreciate that. But there were some interesting ideas and concepts that were brought up in this movie. And there were some things I liked, things I didn't like. We were going to get into all of that. We'll probably, it's Dracula, but spoilers. There will be spoilers here. But, well, Ryan, you're the one who recommended this to me. So what do you got to tell all of our Howligans about Dracula? What do you think?
So I discovered this through YouTube Shorts. I saw it, just caught my eye looking through something about Dracula. And I just clicked it, like Dracula in a cage, whatever. Like, I forget exactly what it said, but it was enough that it caught my attention. I clicked it. And it's the scene of him in captivity. And he's like, this is a toilet. I'm a vampire. Why have you given me a toilet? And I was like, what is this? So
I saw that exact same short. But unlike you I remember that. Because I didn't even realize until I saw the third episode, which is where it shows up.
That's what it's
and
from.
You're like, oh, that's what this is from.
Yeah.
But I didn't look it up. So,
yeah, okay. I was just curious, what is that? Like, where'd that come from? And I found that it was from this show, and it was enough to get me to look it up. So it's the 2020 Dracula by Netflix in association with the BBC, or just by the BBC. But it's the 1897-ish that this takes place.
Late 1800s.
And it's kind of the original Dracula story, but it continues into modern day. So it's the experience of a lawyer going to work with the count to finish a real estate deal, basically. He thinks he's going to be there for a couple days. And it's this guy going, and there's something mysterious going on. And it's really kind of captivating the way it's done. But there were some things right away that made me think of you, because you were very quick to notice like political stuff. So there's a little bit of him and like these letters going back and forth that you're hearing them narrated. And he has a fiance who he's thinking of her. He's looking at this picture of her that he carries, and she writes him. He's reading this letter that she wrote
being
him.
the lawyer.
He being the lawyer, not Dracula.
Yes. Jonathan Harker.
Yeah.
Is who it is. Okay.
And he's reading this letter from his fiance, and she's like, oh, I'm sure you'll be tempted by all these girls when you're on the continent. And traveling across Europe and whatever, and that's okay. Like, everything's going to be fine. I'm sure you're going to have to give in to some of these desires because ultimately you're going to come home to me. But since you might be doing that, there is this bar hand, the bar back at the local pub. He's shaping up pretty nicely. There's this other guy who's been eyeing me. Maybe I'll try things out with this girl that I've been seeing, whatever. And that was one of the things that immediately struck me as like a BBC thing to throw in just a little bit of that modern day stuff. A book of the original Dracula story wouldn't have done that.
Really?
They just wouldn't have acknowledged them in the book because they just didn't do that back then. It's like, okay, this is just the BBC modernizing a little bit. She's throwing in this little thing of like, you can get somebody, I can get anybody. that's fine. But he arrives at the castle, and I like the driver. They have this driver who's just like, he has this little like mask thing on, probably like a dust mask, I guess is what it's supposed to be. But really it's just hiding his identity. Because spoilers, it's probably Dracula. Right? Because he has the eyes that kind of have that glow for a second when Jonathan's like going up. He's like, are you going to help me with my bags? And he looks back, and the eyes just have this like glow for a moment.
And it makes sense because during that first episode is really about, it's all in that time frame. And they really, they keep bringing up, or Jonathan, he keeps bringing up like the workers. Because Dracula at one point says, oh, there's the servants who are not here. They're here in the daytime, but they're not
they're
here
not
right
here
now.
At night,
But yeah, so more than likely you never see servants. So it's not
part of the original book, and something that's mentioned in the movie Shadow the Vampire is seeing Dracula setting his own table, doing things that servants would normally be doing for somebody with his status.
Well, now this is a golden opportunity. Speaking as a vampire, what do you make of the book's technical merits?
It made me sad.
Why sad?
Because Dracula had no servants.
I think you missed the point of the book, Count Orlok.
Dracula hasn't had servants in 400 years, and then a man comes to his ancestral home, and he must convince him that he is like the man. He has to feed him when he himself hasn't eaten food in centuries. Can he even remember how to buy bread, how to select cheese and wine? And then he remembers the rest of it. How to prepare a meal, how to make a bed. He remembers his past glory, his armies, his retainers, and what he is reduced to. The loneliest part of the book.
That just isn't happening. But yeah, that's part of it, is like, where are all your staff? Like, you live in this huge castle, where are all the people? And then it's being told in two parts. You're getting the story. There's an A plot and a B plot, basically. A plot being the story of Jonathan at Dracula's castle, being told by him as he has escaped from the castle. And he's been found, and he's at a convent being interviewed by these nuns. He's given them a written statement of what happened, but they're coming in to interview him anyway. And Sister Agatha is the primary nun with another younger nun with her.
She's the other main character. It's Dracula and it's her.
Yeah. So there's the story of this guy and how he got out, and a reveal there, which is like a self-contained hour-and-a-half story in the first episode. Second episode is Dracula attempting to get to England. And it's a self-contained story there, but there's some carryover. And then the third one, we move into modern day. And that's where the scene from YouTube Shorts or TikTok or whatever, I'm sure it was on all those platforms, came from.
Sure.
And that was one that got us into it. But I get why they broke it up this way. And I almost wish that they would have made it movies, because they had some really good concepts. And the guy that they got to play Dracula is really good. I would have kind of enjoyed seeing this as a trilogy of movies with a bigger budget and with maybe more oversight into the writing, because there are a few areas where I feel like the writing kind of fell apart. I think the writers took some of their concepts a little bit too far. There's a lot that I really enjoyed along the lines of the mythology and the lore, because that's part of the interview process, is Sister Agatha talking to Jonathan and being like, okay, then what happened? You're sure he did this? You sure he said that? He says blood is lives, and she goes, you're sure he said blood is lives and not blood is life?
Yes, they made
He's
very
like,
clearly
no,
made that
he
distinction.
said blood is lives, because there's a point where he's gets a cut and Dracula's just like watching the blood drop fall. And he's like, oh no, you have to cover that up. It's a trigger.
Trigger.
It's a trigger, yeah, sure.
Triggered. Yeah, Dracula gets triggered several times in this series.
And it's just, they did such a good job. I feel like, that he's there and he thinks it's going to be a couple days that he's there. He doesn't speak English that well, Dracula, that is.
Mm-hmm.
And Jonathan's like, well, if you're coming to England, you're going to have to, maybe you need an English teacher. We can arrange that for you. And he's like, no, you're going to stay here for a month and you're going to help me. And he's like, I don't know how much help I'll be. And he's like, just be at my side and I will absorb you.
Mm-hmm.
And Sister Agatha's like, weird. Why would he say it that way? Like, why would that
Weird.
Weird.
Yeah, it's him staying there for a while, but you're seeing Dracula getting younger and younger.
Mm-hmm.
Like every time we see him, he's a little bit younger. He's starting to speak English better. Jonathan is getting weaker. There are things to suggest that there are other people in the castle. There's something scratching on his window, and he opens it, and in kind of a lame way. Because the BBC has certain things that they always kind of do that are a little bit lame, and one of those is just showing things a little bit too long.
Is that the lame?
Just showing stuff a little bit too long. Like you see somebody scratching at the window, then he opens the window, looks up, and you see very clearly a woman like on the side of the wall, like Spider-Man, and then back into the window. You just see too much. Like you should have just seen like a little hint of it, like a garment coming into the window or something like that.
Yeah, like the very first thing that you notice is I think he hears it.
Yeah, he hears,
and then he
like,
sees like
scratching.
some fingertips or something.
Right.
They're like
They're
three
upside
hands that are
down,
right
yeah.
there. That would have been enough. I agree with you. That don't do too much.
Yeah. But then it's a mystery. It's what's going on, who else is here, and I think it's done super, super well. The first episode really hooked me. There was a little bit of like BBC stank on it. It's like, okay, I know you from Sherlock and I know you from this. But once I got past that, it's like, this is still really good. Like the actors that they use for a reason. They're really good. Like the ship captain was Anderson from Sherlock. That was one of the first ones I recognized from one of the trailers that I watched. Was like, oh my God, he looks fantastic with that giant beard. He looks like Willem Dafoe in The Lighthouse.
A little bit. Yeah, I got some Lighthouse off of that. I agree with you.
But before we go too far, do you have any other thoughts that you're wanting to share, wanting to get out?
I agree with you about the first episode. So what this miniseries is ultimately about, it's like a him versus her of Dracula versus Sister Agatha.
Right.
She's the one who's kind of dogging him. She's the one who is when she's introduced as a character and Jonathan is trying to figure out like, wait a second, you're not like a normal nun. She's like, yeah, when there's occult things, when things are going on, they bring me on.
He's like, I filled in this thing. I wrote out an account. Like, why do you have these questions? And she's like, oh, it's a passion of mine. And, everybody knows it, so they brought you to me.
Yeah. And so it's this thing where she's trying to figure out the weaknesses. And, I mean, do we want to just let them know as far as, and this is certainly spoiler territory,
well, let's just
who
say,
she is.
So I would just say, before we get into spoiler territory, I recommend watching it. If you have Netflix already, I wouldn't get it necessarily just for this, but I think it's worth a watch. A lot of the reviews on IMDb are really good, even though not everybody loves the way everything went.
Okay, sure.
A lot of people, like I read a review that was a 9 out of 10. And still said, like, the last 20 minutes sucked so bad, but the rest of the show was so good. I would agree with that sentiment pretty much completely.
Okay,
There
which
are a
is
few
what
little
you
moments-
said to me about it. And
Yeah, there are a few little moments that I don't love.
yeah,
Like
there were
towards the beginning of the interview with Jonathan, Agatha's very like, did you have sex with Count Dracula?
I'm asking Mr. Harker, if you had sexual intercourse with Count Dracula.
And it's like, why would that ever occur to a nun in 1897 to ask a man? Like, it's just such a weird, out of place thing. That, like, why is that the first question?
I agree with
What
you
does
on
that
why
have-
is it the first question.
Why is
I
that,
don't-
there's not lore behind it? Like, it's, did he bite you? Did he
Right.
do this? Like, what? Why is that the first thing that she asked him? I don't understand that. I think it was for like shock value, but it was just really strange, and it kind of put me off. I almost didn't want to watch it after that. It's like, that was so off the wall. If they're just gonna do stuff to bother you and to shock you, I don't want to get
And
into
I
it.
thought about that too. That I think that makes a lot of sense. And I kind of felt the same way when I heard that question. I'm like, all right, how the message is this gonna get? And it really didn't. I'm gonna be honest. As far as this one, and I am very big on calling it out. It doesn't really go there. As
I
far
think
as
it
that
is
goes.
for shock. I think it's just to be like, this is not your normal nun. But anyway, totally recommend.
Mhm.
What do you think?
This was a very, very good account of Dracula on most degrees. I think the majority of the way I felt about him and his character was played fantastically. Like, I really enjoyed watching this Dracula, this actor portray that
He was
character who we all
so
knew.
good.
So good. So yes, I would absolutely say, if we're gonna just stop right here for no spoiler stuff, this is a watch. But Halligan's, you're gonna want to hang on for the rest of this, because this is where it's gonna get interesting, because this is where we're gonna talk about some things, and the good, the bad, like how it's different, how we may have a differing opinion on how this ended. I don't know. I'm really interested myself to find out. That's why these discussions are so fun. But
Okay. I'm interested now. All right.
The-
Let's just, we were
Yeah.
having a good conversation before we
So,
started
yeah.
recording. Now we can just kind of get back to that.
yeah. So this, number one, this nemesis of Dracula is
Agatha Van Helsing.
It's a Van Helsing, which, you know that name, you've seen the movies. That's great. This was another twist on that, you could say, because I don't ever remember an iteration of Van Helsing like this. And
Yeah.
you would send me a message, or when I was first messaging you about this, when I said, I started watching this, and I messaged a couple things, and you mentioned something about Agatha, this nun. She's kind of a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
Throughout the entirety of it, at the end, I think I really liked her.
I
think
really
by the
liked
time
her.
it ended, I really did enjoy everything about her character.
I really enjoyed her. I liked her a lot. I did tell you that. It's like, she's great and I love her. And she's so fucking irritating.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, she talks like somebody who's never even considered the possibility that the person she's irritating will hurt her. She's never thought about there being consequences
Mm-hmm.
for what she's doing. Like, even when she's talking to Dracula, who she's just seen lay waste to people, she's still such an arrogant smartass, and I love it. And she's also just really annoying.
Kind of. At that point, at the point at which we have gotten thus far in the conversation in the
Mm-hmm.
first episode, she has not seen any of that. So, yeah, this is a story about her versus him, and her as the holy person, which is not an unheard of thing when you're dealing with fighting Dracula. Like,
Yeah.
that's crosses and holy water, and like, we know that, but it's her trying to piece together how that's going to work.
Yeah,
What hurts him? What affects him? That's
Right.
what she's really concerned about.
Like, what's true? Why
Mhm.
is it true? Why does it work? Like, what happened here? What happened there? Like, what did you do? What did you say? What was your experience, Jonathan, the person who was with him? How did you get away from him? Like, how did
Mhm.
you escape? Because people don't do that.
Now, okay, so if I want to break down the 3 episodes separately, because they're an hour and a half each,
Mhm.
so that's almost, like a short, like a 90-minute movie. So the first one, you have Jonathan at his castle, and Jonathan with them, this nun
At the convent.
at the convent, Sister Agatha, and they're talking about it. The second episode, it's all on a boat.
Mhm.
He's going to the New World, going to America. The third one,
No, I don't know where he's going. That was something I was going to mention. They keep saying the New World, but he's going to England.
that's
So
what
I don't
thought
know if
too,
he's
yeah.
going to England and buying property there, or if he's trying to get to America from England. But yeah, there's a few points where he's like, we can't let him get to England.
That's
Because
true.
he's like, I'm going to go to England and lay waste to everything you love.
Go.
You know why I'm going to England. You know that I'm going to kill people. A lot of them. As many as I need and perhaps even more.
And
Like,
they're
he just
in
straight up says it.
London
And
in
they're
the
going,
third episode.
yeah, and then they're going to England. Like, they keep saying the New World. They're going to England. They end up in England. That's where he stays after that. I don't understand.
I really feel like the first episode versus the second versus the third. The first one and the third one are much more similar than the second one. The second one is just a bunch of people on a boat. You can't stop me, motherfucker, 'cause I'm on a boat. Which means he has food between where he started and where he ends.
It's a murder mystery.
It is.
Yeah.
It's not a mystery for any of us who are watching it.
No, but that's why it's fun to watch him play his game. So one of the things that I mentioned to you was a statistically very unlikely group of people on the ship. There's like a Bavarian aristocrat.
Yeah.
There's an Indian scientist and his daughter who is I think deaf and mute. There's a German. I mean, the crew's all from all over the place. One of them's German. One of them's from whatever town they're starting out from. Like that. That's not so wild. But the crew, there's like a rich Englishman,
something like that.
His kid, and then his wife, and then their servant or butler or whatever he's supposed to be. And he's black. The two of them are white. The Indian guy, whatever. It's just a very diverse crew. And I told you, like, this seems super, super unlikely that all these people would be on this ship at the same time because they're all from like different social classes. And I love that it's revealed later on that Dracula did that on purpose because he's like, yeah, I want variety in my food.
Okay.
Like, I don't want to eat the same thing every night.
Glad you brought that up because that leaves me something I wanted to talk about this, where this version of Dracula, when he drinks someone's blood, when he does that, he gains their memories, and their abilities. Apparently, like later on, it's mentioned in the third one where he wants to have a tennis player and he wants to have a physicist, and because he's trying to increase his. It's almost like when Neo jacks into the Matrix.
He's like, load up the Kung Fu program.
That's right.
Load up the piano program. I've always wanted to do it. Anyway, yeah, it's just like, yeah, if you can learn anything, and that comes into play. The German crew member comes into play because he's talking to this woman. He's like, oh man, my German's really rusty. So he doesn't retain it forever. Like, he retains it for a while, but not forever.
But he's like, I think makes sense because, like the rest of us,
we forget.
If you did something for a while, but then you stop doing it, and all of a sudden you try and do it again, you're not going to do it at the level at which maybe you were at before.
Right. She's like, oh, your German's okay. And he's like, it's rusty. I'm gonna get some air. And he goes out, kills the German crew member, and comes back, and he's speaking German perfectly.
Perfect.
Like, your German is so much better. And he's like, oh, thanks. I just had to like get my mind back there or whatever. Right. And then she realizes, oh my God, you're the guy. And there's have you ever heard of the Count Saint Germain?
Yes.
There's a story about him. One of the many stories about this guy who is potentially immortal was that he met this aristocrat who talked about meeting this guy that he reminded her of at her like coming out party. And he was like, yeah, that was me. Like, I remember this is what we ate. We danced all night. We did whatever. And she's like, but how? You still look so good. And he's like, ma'am or madam or whatever. Like, I am very old, but doesn't explain anything further. And I think they might have taken inspiration from this, or maybe it's just a story you tell. Old aristocrat, Dracula, they happen to know each other. He decides to kill her. And then you find out that most of the people on this ship are there because they were all friends with somebody, corresponding with somebody, sponsored by somebody who recommended them for this or arranged to have it done. So he basically put everybody there. Like, that's why this statistically unlikely group of people is on this ship at the same time. And then there's an ill mystery patient.
There sure is.
There sure is. And I didn't know who it would be. I didn't understand what was happening. Because at the end of the first episode, the two big things are Johnny, whatever you want to call him, is dead. He's undead. He's starting to turn into a vampire, but he's like in this in-between state right now, and he didn't realize it. And when they're saying, like, we can't really use your account, take a look. He just wrote Dracula is my lord over and
Dark
over
Lord
again.
or something.
Like hundreds of pages of just writing that over. He's gone shining.
served. What is this?
Dracula is my master. Dracula will be obeyed. Dracula is the beginning and the end. Dracula is all things. Dracula is God. What? I didn't write this.
With it.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, oh my God, I'm dead, aren't I? He's like, I'm not breathing. She goes, you do sometimes, but I think it's just habit.
Yeah.
Like it's,
And
I love how
you have
matter
no,
of fact
you have
it
no
is.
heartbeat.
Yeah. She's like, yeah, you were found dead in a fisherman's nets. You started moving around. Of course, they're going to call a nun.
I'm alive. I'm alive.
And then the most horrifying reveal is where she says something like, yeah, every undertaker knows this. Like knows this.
All the
secret
grave diggers,
that
yeah.
Every once in a while, people don't, like, they die, but their consciousness remains.
There was, okay, so it's very interesting. I really paid attention to this in the third episode. So this is where we're going to get, like, I feel like we're kind of going through it chronologically, so I don't want to jump ahead of myself. I feel like there's
No,
a
go
lot.
ahead. I want to just talk like it's just
Okay.
me and you.
So
Because we're doing spoilers. We should assume that people have watched this or are watching it.
there's some things that go on in this that are, I'd say, fairly inconsistent.
Sure.
And it, for something, when there are parts of this that are done so well, it really bugs me when they have inconsistencies like I'm seeing them. So and it's very vague about some of this. Are we supposed to think that Dracula is the only vampire? Because
No.
like, right? They innuendoed that he's not the only one,
Yeah.
but
He's the only one of his type. He's the only one that retained his, like, mental faculties. Like, most vampires are more like the vampires from I Am Legend.
okay.
Like, they're feral, they're fast, like, they're
Mhm.
ferocious, but they're not intelligent.
Yes.
I got the
These-
impression
these
that
other-
that they're like the ones that we see in the dungeon area of the castle that Jonathan ends up finding, where they're like zombies and they're chasing him and they're just hungry and they're just running at something to try to eat it.
Yes.
And that's a zombie, but I mean, they're whatever.
But they don't.
And they gave the impression that they end up getting killed.
I suppose you could say he's the best of the vampires.
The best.
The most successful, I mean. Most are feral, half mad. They rarely last long, and yet somehow Dracula has found a way to retain his human form and intellect more or less intact for hundreds of years.
It's very interesting because from what we know from this, and this is not ever touched upon in this series, but our understanding, I think people's understanding, is Dracula was the first, like Vlad the Impaler.
Mm-hmm.
He was the first.
By the Impala.
Exactly, Vlad the Inhaler.
Vlad the Inhaler. Yeah.
So he was the first, and he created all of the other. Everything spawned from him.
Yeah.
But it's weird. Like this Dracula, he'd never been to England. Yet when he shows up to the graveyard with Lucy, and he sits her down, and he put your hand down. Oh, I reckon there's about 9 of them here.
Mm-hmm.
How would they be there if he did not create them?
Well, she didn't say that these undead are because of a vampire. She said sometimes they just don't die, or their consciousness doesn't go away when they die.
There is a contagion, a corruption passing through this world from one sufferer to the next. For those unfortunates who fall victim to it, life becomes incurable. They lose the divine ability to die. As their bodies rot, their consciousness persists. Even as dust, their pain goes on. It is a secret every grave digger keeps. There are those among us destined to scratch at our coffin lids for all eternity.
She's like, it just happens sometimes.
Okay, absolutely. Maybe I just missed that.
Yeah, because that's totally what she says. Like,
Okay.
it's almost all of them that he feeds on become something like that for a while, and his brides are ones that he's experimenting with, like trying to keep them, trying to make them like him. But yeah, totally the implication was it doesn't have to be him that fed on them. It just happens.
And I really enjoyed how, like, he made mention when he turned Jonathan.
Like, oh, that was
And
fast.
he's up on that was fast.
Yeah.
But then later on with this one Lucy, this other character, which there's in the third episode, there is so much simping going on in that third episode. Like if we want to pull
everybody
it back to, like,
is obsessed over
holy cow,
a gassed up mid. Like she's fine.
Yeah, she's not.
But
yeah,
she's not
absolutely.
like the main thing about her is her personality. She has this like really bubbly, outgoing, like she's just super alive. She has this great personality, but a lot of it you're supposed to think that she's the most beautiful, wonderful person who's ever existed, and that's why everybody's after her. And she's also rich.
It's never stated. Now it's stated that
based on her lifestyle,
the other person she's gonna marry,
Yeah.
whatever that, the cowboy, whatever, that he's rich, like they state that. But yes, based on her lifestyle, I would agree with you.
it's supposed to be, I think, like two rich families coming together.
I enjoyed that that character of Lucy, who this is in the third episode where you're at modern times, that she doesn't turn immediately, and the way that progression happens, I really like the way that turned out with her character and how that ended up. I feel like the second episode was almost a filler between the first and the third. That not a lot story-wise happened. It was interesting. It was a whodunit thing for the crew and the people, but not obviously for the audience. We obviously know.
It was a fun story, a little bit more lore, and then it put the pieces where they needed to be for the final part.
Yes. Some of the inconsistencies that were a problem that I would say with this was his powers.
Sure.
Things that when he had the opportunity, or we would think based on the things that we have actually physically seen him do, he would be able to stop something from occurring or do something in a particular given situation, and he doesn't.
There are a lot of things that seem to happen because he just forgets to do something about it or doesn't think of it.
Or doesn't care.
Or doesn't care. Yeah, like he doesn't bother to see like what were they doing on the ship. Like he never explored what her and the captain were doing. He kills the captain, or he thinks he kills the captain.
Right.
And it's like, well, what was, he just didn't bother to find out that they had rigged up a bunch of gunpowder to explode. That was very conveniently on the ship.
Very convenient.
Convenient gunpowder is convenient.
So there's, it is. Okay, so we have this sister who's trying to figure out how does this Dracula person work? What are his weaknesses? Basically, it's this good versus evil. How do I defeat the evil? That is really kind of what the essence of this breaks down to. And I thought it was very interesting how logically and stuff that she went about it.
I like that she was trying to figure stuff out. I like that she was asking questions like, oh, you turned and then you started screaming. What happened? Oh, it was the cross. Probably not, because in the cutaway scene that we see, the flashback, the sun is reflecting off of it.
Exactly.
That's probably it. But
so it's a combination.
Yeah, so she takes it as it was God. God is real. God is protecting us, whatever. He's afraid of the cross. But I was led to believe, I think, that no, the cross didn't matter. It was the sun. But then you see later on, it does work. Like they're doing that. They're making the cross with their fingers. So he's like, oh. He just like, the way he reacts to the cross, I didn't like. He's like, brother, oh.
Brother,
He's like, he doesn't have like any real strong reaction to it. He's just like, doesn't want to see it. It's like, ugh. It's like me. It's like when Kim's like, here, look at this. All right. So after another impromptu battery change, because I still don't have the right cable to power this camera indefinitely.
We'll get there. It'll be all right. We'll get there.
Although we have an ancient camcorder recording, maybe we'll just use parts from that. I don't know. Let's just get back to the boat scene. So Dracula doesn't bother seeing what they were doing in the hold. There's convenient gunpowder down there that they're using to build an explosive.
You were talking about her and you didn't understand why she was there. Oh, like her being in this hold, like why she's there, how that apply. Like we understand the captain at some point says why this sick cabin is cabin number 9, and everybody wants to go in there because they're searching for this killer.
No, I don't need a Pokemon. What about a world-class detective?
Right.
But he like verifies himself. No, it's just
he goes in there. It's like a terrible smell.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it ends up being that Agatha is in there.
Case closed, but still open until I solve it.
And that episode starts off so strangely. And this is another, I feel like, BBC thing. A scene where they're sitting down and talking, and they're playing chess. Dracula and Agatha. They're just starting off. She's very pleasant. She's like smiling. She's in her nun outfit, but without the headdress. Where
It's called a habit.
as the last time we saw her, she was in the convent trying to hide from Dracula, and he had just gotten through the little barrier that they put up disguised as Jonathan.
Yes.
And I just want to say I really like where he gets in. I like that whole scene. It's so tense. All the nuns are there. They have like their stakes. They're ready to go.
Mother Superior on no account invite that creature in. That is not a temptation with which I was struggling.
Mother Superior doesn't seem to know that Agatha's been like training them to kill vampires. Not training them, but being like, stakes work. Certain things work. Cause
Maybe
like,
training. It's ambiguous. We don't
like,
know.
Oh God, oh God, oh God. They're like really not ready for it. But like bats start flying around once Dracula realizes that Johnny's there, calls him Johnny, and a wolf comes up. And I was asking you, when the wolf is there and Agatha's like, I know it's you, go ahead and show yourself. The wolf just like falls over and he crawls out of the belly of it, like covered in blood and stuff and naked. And he just like stands up and it's like, is that the most metal thing you've ever seen on Netflix?
I don't know about you girls, but I do love a bit of fur.
That was well done.
It was so good. Like, it was so... Like, at first, I was like, why don't they just have him transform? Everything else has him transform, but it's like, this stuck with me.
Yep. Right?
I like that it's not just like, whoop, now I'm a wolf, whoop, now I'm a humanoid. And
yeah, there were some Dracula power ability things that went on in this that were just
so good.
They were so good. There were things that he could do that very much harkened to the tales and legends that everybody knows when they think of Dracula. You think of certain things.
Sure.
You think of bats. You think of holy water. You think like stakes, wooden stakes in the heart. You think of certain things. And it was really interesting to watch this nun, this Van Helsing, try to piece together what are the things that is differentiate between what is legend and what is true.
Yeah.
What they say works, what actually works.
Yeah, I love that. I love that, and I love his explanations for it. The only one that they didn't address that I would have liked is the dirt thing. Vampires have to sleep in the dirt of their like homeland. I don't know why that is. It's in a lot of the books that I've read. Like other stories other than just Dracula have adopted it. Not all of them do.
Okay, so you're right. You say that, but the end of the second episode, it ends with the ship going down, and
the dirt is lost. And they never talk about it again. Yeah, right? I don't know why.
The whole third episode did. Now, it could be very simple. We're in modern times. So as soon as he
ordered it on Amazon,
exactly, 2 days figures it out. It just delivered the dirt.
Like,
he's good.
I'm not going to sleep for 2 days, but that's
right.
Cool.
There you go. Then we'll get 2-day Prime. I'm on Prime now.
It's
I
like
next day.
It's like What We Do in the Shadows when they go to a hotel and they have to sleep with the dirt of their homeland. So they just like put some dirt under the bed that they're sleeping in.
Never saw it.
Oh, God. But like the housekeeping comes in and just like vacuums it up, and one of the vampires is like there. He's like, I can't sleep. Are you asleep? I can't sleep. And they realize that they're stuck without their dirt. It's so good. But yeah, that was something that I noticed. But I like that they have those rules and that they're consistent. Like there were 47 or whatever boxes or crates of this dirt in the hold of the ship. It's like, oh, why is that part of our cargo? Well, I don't know. It must be agricultural, And then they realize what it is because Agatha tells them. One thing I hated was when they were like, she must be the vampire. The one is like, look, she's covered in blood. She must be the vampire. And then they string her up and she's like,
not really. Maybe. It's classified.
I'm totally a vampire. Don't you hang me or I'm going to get you. Like, fuck off. And then she's immediately pivots to like, no, he's really the vampire. I was just pretending. He's totally the vampire. It's like, I would hang both of you. I don't believe anything. And then Dracula's like, all right, you got me. It was me. Because why not?
Yeah,
he's on a ship.
He doesn't really care.
Not much that they can do to him. They managed to light him on fire, I think. But everything gets fucked up because he can like coax people into doing stuff. Like that scene where he's outside the convent, he's trying to coax them into letting him in. He's like, you don't have to invite me in. Somebody has to invite me in. Who's going to do it? I'll kill you fast. He's like, I'm going to kill all of you anyway. I'm not usually quick about it, but I'll do that for whoever.
And it's like, you get to be my pet.
Or yeah,
you get to stay with me. The rest of them are going to die.
sure.
Now, granted, if you're saying that to a convent and they believe if they die they go to heaven, you feel like that would be oh, you mean I can live as an undead creature in your thrall, or I could just be dead and go to. You know what? I'm going to choose Jesus. I think I'm going to choose. And I want to bring this up because I was afraid that this was going to be yet another case when we're talking about the message, which this was not that, and I really appreciated that about it, where they were going to denigrate Christian religions again, and they did not. Not in the way that I not really in any sort of way that I would have expected, and I don't feel like after having watched the third episode again today, because I really that last 20 minutes that you talk about, I really wanted to kind of hone in on that and decide how I felt about it.
We can get there. There was a little bit that I wanted to get to. I thought they were going to do the same thing, but they really didn't.
They really didn't.
There was a little comment about the English, where something about because he's English, it's like a mix of arrogance and blah blah blah. Like it's some comment like that, like typical of the English, and it's like, I know that major powers, like there's this like self-degrading sense of humor kind of thing, but also like the English are dope, and it's like, come on, just be proud of yourselves.
Yeah,
a little bit. Like I've seen a lot of that in like British TV and YouTubers and stuff like that. This whole like, we're not that great. It's like, yeah, you're a little island that conquered like most of the world
at one
pretty
point
recently. You showed that you could just kind of take over if you decided to. Like, why are you now just making fun of yourself in your Dracula show? I don't know. That just bothered me a little bit.
They did it before us.
There's a lot of these points where that's true. I have heard the theory that all the like crazy people that made that kind of stuff possible came to America to escape the restrictiveness of like Britain as they were trying to kind of gentrify and help their image a little bit.
And here we are today.
But yeah, there were a lot of moments where I thought like, oh, they're going to go down some political path that I'm not going to like, but they never really do it. They flirt with it, but they don't do it.
Yep. Really appreciated that about this. So in the third episode, which the second episode is really just, in my opinion, a filler episode. It does answer a couple of questions, but that's really it. Gets you to the third episode, which is really remarkable. So you have the start of the third episode where, number one, the person who's ever leading the Harkness, is that Jonathan Harkness? Harker. Yeah, the Harker his
like the foundation.
Thank you. The foundation started by his original fiance, which is part of the first episode. If you see it, you'll know what we're talking about.
His fiance and the Van Helsing family.
Right. They start this foundation, which is really just an anti-vampire foundation, which is like we can be okay with that as
I'm down.
As their food. We're okay with that.
Yeah. I feel like the cows having an anti-farmer foundation.
It would if they could. Thankfully they can't. This foundation finds him, and it's really their fault, and even one of the people admits it, whoever this lady running it is. It's her fault that he wakes up and is not in this suspended animation in which they find him. But
did you wake me up? Did you bring me here?
Some things that happen, like he comes out of the water. There's some interesting interactions in present day where he's looking at things, he's figuring things out in real time for him.
Yeah, he sees a camera like one of ours.
Yep.
And he's like, oh, that's a camera, right? And he's like, I'm 500 years old.
Yep.
You know, I know what cameras look like. That they change, but that's totally what that is.
And I think that's very interesting. As humans, we don't have that perspective.
Yeah.
We have generational perspective. And, you know, the way it is for us now is different than the way it was for our parents and our parents. And that's just how it is. But for him, being able to see, and him immediately recognizing that. And he asked, look, you got flying things now because there's a helicopter there. Yeah. But then he's like, do those fly? It's
yeah,
like,
he
no,
points at like
cars.
a Range Rover or whatever.
Right,
and
something.
He's like, does that fly? And they're like, no, that one doesn't fly. And it's like, all right.
And you are introduced to another character, whatever her name is, but it's Agatha. It's Sister Agatha again, but it's her great niece.
She has the same arrogant attitude.
A little.
She's like, Count Dracula, why you take so long? She had the English accent. It was Sister Agatha that had the Holland accent, and that ends up coming back into play later.
Mm-hmm.
It's a secret tool we'll need for later.
But him navigating the new world, like the interaction when he comes up onto the beach, he's meeting people for the first time in 100 years. He asks, "How long was I?"
Yeah, he was out for like 125 years or something like that.
And he just kind of laughs it off, and you see some power things happen, and then all of a sudden there's the next scene, and he's at some lady's trailer.
Not a trailer, at a house.
It looked like almost a trailer, but yeah, I guess
it was a small house.
Small house.
Yeah.
There were some very interesting things that happened with that interaction between him and her.
I love that interaction. I love all the interactions that he has with somebody he's about to kill, because it happens in every episode.
It does.
There's a really good one in every episode. In the first one, it's with Johnny.
Mm-hmm.
Like the whole time he's been getting younger. He's not telling Johnny things. He's telling him, like, I need you to write 3 letters. That you're done and you're going home. That you're...
No.
Or that you're going to be coming home soon.
Right.
That you're leaving and that you're delayed.
Yes, but you're on your way. Yeah.
And he's like, when should I date them for? And Dracula thinks about it, and he tells him this date, and he's like, this is when you're going to die, essentially. This is what I'm going to say.
And even Jonathan's like, well, why would I do this ahead of time? Why wouldn't I just do it,
when it's happening, like when I leave.
In the moment, like while I'm leaving? And
he's like, oh, the mail's not reliable here or whatever. And there's like a baby crying in a bag. And he's like, there's the baby. And he's like, Johnny, there is no baby. As he's like walking up the stairs and keeps telling him that.
Please! The baby! Johnny, there is no baby.
It's so good the way he does that stuff.
The way he gaslights.
And then the scene where he's on the roof, like on that turret or whatever, and he like puts him down and he's in the sun, and Dracula like lays his cape down and lays next to him. And he's like, tell me what she looks like. You know, there have been songs about her and poems. This time of year she should be coming over those mountains and she should be red. Is she red, Johnny?
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, look for yourself. And he's like, well, I'd be burned to dust. And he's like, goes, good. And he goes, that's totally fair.
Is she red, Johnny?
Look for yourself.
But that will burn me to dust.
Good.
Fair enough. Absolutely fair enough.
Fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he wants him to describe the sun. And they just have this like really frank conversation. Same thing in episode 2 when he thinks he's about to kill Agatha. Well, he knows that one of them's going to die either way. Like he knows somebody's going to die, and Agatha does die, but not the way he thinks. But you know, they're talking. She's like, "Why are you afraid of the cross?" This is one of my favorite lines. And he goes,
"It's not a symbol of virtue and kindness. It's a mark of horror and oppression. Your idiot church has terrorized the peasant population for centuries, and I have been imbibing the blood of those same peasants for so long. I have absorbed their fear of the cross."
And she goes, "Nah."
No.
Sorry?
No, I mean, that's all very nice and logical, but that's not the reason.
And like even he looks confused. Like, why would I lie to you about this? She's like, "No, that's not it." Which I hate. That's part of the attitude that I really don't like. She wants to know how things work, and he tells her how stuff works. And she's just like, "No, that's not how it works." She's like, "I know better. I something else."
But I think that's it. I don't think she thinks that he's lying. I think she thinks he's wrong.
Yeah,
you're
she
wrong.
did say sometimes, like, what, you know, why would a beast know why it's afraid of something or why it can or can't do something?
Yep.
But I just don't like it. I don't like that she is just like, nah, that's not it. It's like, let the man cook. He's saying some good stuff. I like
it was. I
enjoyed
that too.
You texted me one where she's like, if you like people, why do you kill them? And he responds, why do you pick flowers?
Why do you pick flowers? That was very good. There are some very, very good lines in this. There's some things that are said, and this is actually one of the ones I wanted to talk about. Was he's in this house in modern day.
Mm-hmm.
Now the house is kind of it's shitty, as we we might think
in
of
a
it.
Contemporary setting as we understand.
Yes, as we understand it. But he's standing there. He's had this conversation with her. Her husband is
undead and locked in a fridge.
Small fridge. Like our fridge is big. No, this is like a college dorm size.
Yeah, I don't know
It's
if English
tiny.
fridges are just
It's
dorm
gotta be
fridges,
different. I
but
don't
yeah,
know.
I use a fridge like that to keep film in.
There you go.
Like I would.
I'd
never
keep
think
beer
to
in that
keep
fridge.
all
Like,
of
what are
our-
you doing? So he's having this conversation. She's like, "Oh, I know you have questions," and she's like, "Jenny, okay, what's your mirror reflection thing?" And there is a whole thing in this about mirrors,
Mhm.
which is interesting. It really plays into the third episode that we're now going to currently really get to and talk about. But he lets her know that this is the most luxury. He's like, I've been an aristocrat for 400 years.
Mhm.
This is the most luxury I've ever seen. Like, what are you talking
Yeah,
about?
he was like, I don't know any aristocrat that would ever willingly leave this room.
Exactly.
Because he's like, where are your servants? Is it their day off? You're obviously wealthy. Look at all the food, the picture box. Because he's watching TV when she comes downstairs, and he's watching the sunrise. That was a thing in documentary, Interview with the Vampire,
The documentary.
where
yes.
Brad Pitt's talking about getting to see the sunrise in color for the first time by going to the movies at night and seeing it. And like, how that it's nostalgic, I guess, like getting to remember being human. But yeah, he says, I always knew technology would bring miracles, but I never thought they would become ordinary.
It was real good.
Yeah.
That was a real good line. And that's, I would love more people to, I'm trying to teach my kids to understand the world in which you live in. It's all about perspective. That this woman who he was, in our understanding of what we were witnessing, was about to kill. Like, there's no way she gets away. She does because of everything else that happens in this particular episode. But he's just going to kill her, and so it's like, well, I'm going to tell you anything you want to know. Yep.
And he's just like totally
super
ready.
matter of fact.
He's having an AMA. I love that. I love that he just like, yeah, this is how I do it, and I seem to like it. It's like Dexter. Dexter likes to kind of confess some things to the people that he's killing. It's like he tells this, what is it, a killer therapist or something, his secret, and he goes,
Oh, God. Oh, that feels so amazing to say out loud.
oh, it feels so good to say out loud. It's like I think Dracula gets the same kick out of it.
A little bit. So there's interesting things that go on. I really enjoyed this episode. So you'd mentioned this much earlier on in this, where there's some things brought up. He said rights. This was a very interesting part of this show. So as he's in the house, he ends up getting caught, and he gets caught because of the Zoe. Her name is Zoe.
Yes.
The new sister, Agatha, whose great niece, whatever, is Zoe, and she catches him. She kind of, there's a really good burn moment where she puts him in his place, because she puts his coffin upstairs.
Yeah, with a box.
Well, they go downstairs, and him and this woman are talking downstairs, and we're hearing this sound. We understand it as a ringing cell phone. He has obviously no idea what's going on, but he somehow answers it, and he's like,
well, he knows a little bit because he's fed on a few modern people.
And he's talking to her, and she's like, just so you know, we're expecting you. We need you to get in the box. She's like, there's a roof over my head. And then she has somebody use a big crane with like a bucket and just rips the roof off.
Yeah.
A portion of the roof. He's like, oh, and which is, I really enjoyed that moment. Like, okay, yeah, no, we expect you. We know what you're about.
Yeah, we had prep time. We had 120 something years to get ready
for this moment. So you're not, and I really, really liked that. I liked how they felt like, oh yeah, we know what you're about, but we've kind of got you in check. But the thing is, they never truly did.
No, he was always, it almost feels like he's just playing along.
Yes, a lot of it
He's
was
like,
that.
bless your heart.
He wasn't necessarily, like at that moment especially, he wasn't one step ahead of anything. He was learning as he went. But because of all of the years of experience he already had, he knew, oh, well, because of who I am and what I can do, I'm just going to beat you. And so I'm going to get out of whatever this is. I'm going to get out of it. And it was very interesting. She goes in, he bites her, but her blood poisons him because you find out she has cancer.
Yeah.
So he can't.
Yeah, and that's
survive on it.
something you can't drink the blood of a dying person or
Which
you get
is-
sick. It's in a bunch of vampire lore.
Dead blood. You let me drink.
One lesson you taught me. Never drink from the dead.
Really, really interesting, and I enjoyed that, and it makes sense because it has been around before. It's one of the things that she brings up in this later on in this episode is how none of it, or I think even beforehand, none of it makes any sense. And that's one of the things I really liked about this, is they just straight up said it out loud that this Dracula stuff doesn't make sense. Sunlight, wooden stakes, which you get that.
Like some of them work, some of them don't. Why?
Yeah. Why is it cross? Why does it? And where this ultimately ended up going in this third episode, there's a boy and a girl, and the boy likes the girl. She doesn't really like him back, like that. And it's a whole thing about that. But she makes some interesting comments in that. Like she mentioned, when you're beautiful, everybody smiles at you all the time. All you ever see are smiles.
Yeah.
You never see like what people's real emotion, because they're always smiling at you, which I thought was interesting. I thought it was interesting how he has a relationship with this person, this Lucy character. And I don't know how you felt about it at the end, but you find out he really liked her because she was obsessed with death.
She was in love with death.
Love with death. And that made her flavor was very unique.
Mm-hmm.
But she couldn't handle what ultimately happened to her in the end, which I don't necessarily want to get into all of it. I'm going to leave some things for you all who want to watch it. Now, this is the thing I think we need to talk about. And like you said, when you watched some reviews and how you felt about it in the last 20 minutes, why would you say you didn't like how this ended?
I just think it's a really lame ending for a character who is so smart, so self-aware, always so far ahead. The way it ultimately ends is she finds him. She, for whatever reason, is compelled to drink a blood sample that she took from him while he was in captivity. Like there's this little scene where she's like, you will do this, you'll stand here, you'll give me your arm. If you try to make a move, they'll open up the rest of the roof and you'll be burnt to a crisp. And then she's like, I can't get the needle in. And he's like, allow me, hold this, hold that. He like cuts his wrist with his fingernail, drips a little bit of blood in, like, here you go. He's helping her out. I love how he escapes. He calls a lawyer. They give him a tablet so he has books to read.
Oh
my
my
gosh,
gosh, that was so
They're
good.
like, who gave him the Wi-Fi password? And he's like, it was my name. And he's like, yeah, he's got a lawyer. And they're like, we've been representing Count Dracula since 1897.
I'm
and they're like, does it bother you that your client is? They let the lawyer in to this secret like black site. They let him in
versus just saying we don't know who you're talking about.
Right. That's the most British thing. That's the most modern day British thing I've ever seen. Is they let the lawyer in and they listen to him. They're like, doesn't it bother you that he's 500 years old? And he's like, it does bother me quite a bit. It's actually quite terrifying, but it's not actually illegal.
The lawyer was so good. I'm sorry.
So good.
And it's so good.
And the lawyer is Renfield, or a Renfield.
Kind of.
I like that, they have these callbacks and stuff. I guess that's what it is. But yeah, the lawyer's super good. He's like, it's quite terrifying, but it's not actually illegal to be super.
The lawyer was so good. And I really did want to talk about that too.
But yeah, he so he escapes. He's just like living his life. He's just living a life. He's like, oh, everything's so easy now. You can just order food. And he's on Tinder, like swiping
on Tinder.
Men, women, whatever. He eats whatever because he's not really looking for relationships. He's looking for food. And then he's exercising. He's like, oh, I've never had to exercise. Everything's so easy now. It's like, why do you have to exercise? You're dead. You didn't have to use a toilet. Like, why do you have to exercise? Why do some body processes apply to you and others don't? I guess it's part of what they were saying. Like, this doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
I love that he's so black-pilled. I think I'm using that term right. That she's like, she's in charge of the facility. And she's like, women's rights, get used to it. And he's like, what? She's like, you'll catch on or something like that. And he's like, no, I've been asleep for 120 years. Please try to explain. He's like, what are rights? Nobody has rights. Be you man, woman, or monster. No one has rights. And to think otherwise is a lunatic fantasy or whatever. I love that. He knows what a toilet is.
Yep.
And he would know what rights were from modern day people that he fed on. And they would have had a concept of rights back then.
To a certain extent, but not in the way we know them now.
But him, like you're saying, being so old and having seen so much of history, knows there's no such thing as like a guaranteed right.
Yeah, exactly.
I love that.
I did
But
too.
then they take all this stuff, all this like wisdom and all that, and they ultimately end up with she drinks a little bit of his blood, and she starts like in the hospital hallucinating her older self, like
Her
the
great
blood
great
of
aunt.
the victims are in Dracula's blood, so she can connect with her ancestor because their DNA syncs up. And Agatha tells her that, and she's like, "Oh, I like the new vocabulary I have with her goofy ass accent." And then she starts talking with that accent. And when they meet, Dracula's like, "Oh, it's you. Like, you drank a little bit of my blood. Now it's both of you. It's Zoe and it's Agatha." But she, first off, he's like, "How'd you find me?" And she's like, "Oh, it wasn't hard. Tall building because you're so vain, not inside of a church, like this, whatever." And it's like, how could you narrow that down in London, one of the biggest cities in the world? There had to be 100 buildings that met your specifications. Is this like you should be sweaty because you've been going up and down stairs, running all around the city and stuff? It's like they should have had the time thing like 8 days later. Like, well, I went to every one and now I figured out where you are. But ultimately, it ends with her saying, like, you can't look in the mirror because you're a coward, because you lack the courage to die. And, the sun doesn't bother you. Like, it's not real. You're so ashamed of who you are and not dying in battle bravely like all your ancestors. She has this long thing that she goes on that at first blush sounds like, yeah, you're shaming a monster, sure. But he's not ashamed. He loves who he is. He is having so much fun with his victims. Like, he loves his life. He loves what he does. He loves the experiences that he gets to have. Her whole perspective on him, it just doesn't make any sense to me.
Okay.
And the whole thing of like, these are just self-imposed rules. They're like habits that you forgot were habits, and you thought they were like that the sun would hurt you. You're afraid to go out in public because you're ashamed of yourself. And then you forgot, and now you think you'll burn in the sun or whatever. Like, I just don't like that. I would have liked it better if she pulled down the curtains and he just burned. I would have accepted that.
Okay, except for the part where, like, we're sitting at a table right now. She is there at the table. He is, like, here. Yet she jumps up on the table, runs past him to clearly these, like, 2-story tall curtains, full windows, like, double...
Yeah, the 50-year-old dying woman jumps up on the table and runs down the table. So, like, the worst way to get to the window, one might argue. But she does that so fast that the guy who we saw steal a gun from a soldier and kill all these people and get away super fast couldn't do anything about it. He just looks at her like,
yeah,
I hope she's not doing anything important.
I'm sorry, what do you do? Oh, did you think you were going to go run into the sunlight thing? I don't like sunlight, right? Like, the power and consistency things. I will say, though, as far as the ending goes, which it was very Lieutenant Dan, was basically he expected to die in battle. Like, that was that was his destiny, as it was. And I don't think it's something that is new as far as ideas go, that everybody in your family had done this and you want to step up and you don't want to be this. And so I think her description of it was one of those, her making him understand something he didn't even understand himself. So when it finally clicked for her, because his perfect bride
was somebody who wasn't afraid to die.
Was somebody who was in love with death, which you are afraid of. And so I liked her soliloquy, her monologue of that, telling him and exposing him. The thing that I really didn't like about it was you just watched the boy character in this, who he liked the girl, but the girl didn't like him. You just watched this boy stake her in the heart, and she died Blade vampire style.
Yeah.
Just
poof, yeah, fire.
Poof, gone.
Yeah.
And yet, that works. That is effective.
But the sun thing doesn't.
But the sun thing for you doesn't. That doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
That's not in the same world in which everything you have built to this point
Yeah, you're finding that so much of the logic really does apply.
Like,
they have a lot of clever explanations for things. Like, they, because I was thinking immediately at the end of episode 2 where they show him come back up on the land.
Mm-hmm.
Well, how's it 100 and something years later if he's been underwater all this time? Like his clothes would be eaten up, they'd be musty. Like he would have at least lost elasticity in his like suspenders or whatever. Like something would be wrong. The wood would be rotten away in his box. But they're showing a little bit of a video in an auditorium where they find him, and they're like, note that there's been no decomposition, no bacteria is affecting.
You have no
anything like
barnacles.
that. It's like this supernatural thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that they explain that a little bit. Like, yeah, for some reason, just an effect that we're looking into. And the people who are there, I think, are volunteers to donate blood for him to eat so he can
we can keep
survive
him
in captivity.
Right. We want him to survive because but
why do they need to tell them what they're doing? Like, why do they need to tell them why they need the blood? I don't know why they're like bringing them in on it.
Yeah, I feel like because it never gets to that point. But I feel like these volunteers would have been like people who went in and he bit them and like fed them like that way.
Yeah.
That's why we need you to know what's going on. I don't know how else they would have done it. But I really appreciated her explanation at the end that this is why you fear the cross. It was one of my favorite parts of that. It's like, this is somebody choosing this. Like, Jesus Christ chose to be nailed to a cross and die for all of humanity, and you cannot make that choice. You cannot make the choice to die anymore. Now, I think one of the inconsistencies with it is, I agree with you, he loved his life.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he seemed to genuinely...
He's having a good time.
It could be the case of he was lying to himself.
Sure.
I think a lot of us, all of us, can, at
Delusional.
one point or another, can understand what it's like to lie to yourself until you really come to grips with maybe a bad decision that you're making or somebody that you're dealing with that this person's not good for me, and I'm trying to convince myself that they are.
Sure.
And so, okay, I can get that, and I really the appreciation of Jesus was brave enough to do this, and you are not. You cannot go into somebody's house without
Permission or invitation.
permission. You do not want to be in the light of day because you are ashamed of yourself, but you have lived this life for so long you've forgotten that. Or the fact, like you talked about with his explanation of why he fears the cross, because I've drank on people for so long. Maybe that's a part of it too, that the superstition was this. And for so long, because the superstition was that, and you've been drinking these people for so long, and blood is lives, you believed it yourself. The problem with that is, if that's not really true, why'd she turn into dust when he staked her in the heart? Like, that happened. We watched it. It doesn't make sense. It's killing me. So, I ended up really liking her. I really like that explanation of her. That's our cat. Ignore it.
Not my cat. I don't have cats.
You lucky dog. So, I can watch the end of it, and I can understand why people, when it ended that way, they didn't like it. Totally, whatever that was, she knocked it down of yours, whatever it was. Yeah. Probably gonna start screwing with it on the floor.
Probably that battery. Why did that just shut off?
It's getting cold.
Whatever. We're switching to camera B.
Camera B. What's up, Camera B? How you doing?
That's our $5. I think it was $5. $5 or $7 from Goodwill. And we were testing it to see if it would be suitable for B-roll. It's now main
nice
camera.
Main roll. I need about $350. So
about $350 for a camera.
Yeah, her jumping up on the table, running down, pulling down the things, his best bride, this was my best one. She gets staked in the heart, she evaporates into ash on the floor, and he walks over and he's like stomping her out. She's like nuggets of coal and ash, and it's like he's not the first time he's seen that.
Right.
Like he's not surprised.
He's not
that
right.
happened.
He's not surprised at all.
He just walks over and deals with it. And that was one things I actually really, really liked about that scene is so they're in his penthouse up at the very top, so it's ridiculous.
Sure, yeah.
Obviously, that's how Dracula would live. He's speaking to his lawyer, who he just on the lap, and he just closes it. Oh well, I just went in. I've got company coming. Whatever. Doorbell rings.
Got a girl coming over.
Mm-hmm. So he lets the two in. Then he lets his bride in, and these two just kind of start dealing with her exclusively. And Dracula's at the end of the table, and he's just watching it all unfold.
Mhm.
He could stop it at any time. He could kill
Both of
Agatha or Zoe and just kill her and be done, and then go feed on him, and then live with his bride. But he doesn't. He just watches what goes on. He's very curious.
Uh-huh.
He's aloof in the fact he doesn't care about things. The way this Dracula was portrayed, I still agree, was fantastic to watch and is entirely worth watching just for that. I understand why at the end, and I agree with you, the disappointment of it, but I like that it ended and that it's not going to be something where we just want to see more adventures of Dracula.
Sure.
No, he realized that when she brought that up to him, that yes, I'd been lying to myself. I hadn't seen the sun in so long that it made him understand some things. And sometimes people, whether it's like, you have to edit this in. Like, you know the one.
I do.
That's he's coming to this realization. It's your come to Jesus moment. Right? It's that. He comes to this realization and he's like, I've been this whole time, and I guess I have. I've been afraid of this the whole time, and I also want to die, which they talk about that. The
No, I don't know
and,
why he wants to die. That part doesn't. I don't get that. I do like that little bit of the ending, though. I guess the main part I have a problem with is the whole, like, her figuring him out. He's telling her, but she just somehow gets him after really not being around him that much, because on the ship she was being fed on.
Mm-hmm.
Like, when they're being fed on, the victims go into this sort of trance that he controls. That's where they're having the chess game in episode 2.
But he wasn't feeding on her in the ship, because we find out later on he already killed her. Like, he fed on her,
Is
and
she
then
dead?
he killed her. And so now she's just like Jonathan was.
Or she didn't
But
realize.
as soon as they die, he's no longer feeding on them.
I don't
which
know.
I didn't understand.
Was she dead? I don't remember her being dead. Like, her
Yes,
fingernails are coming out like Johnny's was, and she's like in the process, because once they're bit, they're done. Like, they're gonna die. They're gonna turn into one of these undead things. Either way,
I think he straight killed her, and she was like that, coming back like Jonathan was. Whereas I never understood why he killed Lucy. But I mean, I guess I knew he wanted a bride, but is it just to have a person with him?
I think so. He's trying to make more of himself. Because he has the brides, he's trying to make one that is aware, that is still functional.
So did it bother you that we don't know? Like, obviously they make mention of there's other vampires, that he's not the only one. Did it bother you that we don't know why he's like that and nobody else is?
A little bit. He hints that it's being selective with his diet. Like, not eating animals or whatever, because you kind of become more like what you are. So he likes science, he eats scientists. He is an aristocrat, so he eats other aristocrats to kind of keep that mindset, the habits, I guess, the mannerisms of, that he wants. He eats the people he wants to kind of be like, and he wants a little bit of diversity in that diet. So I guess he can be like a well-rounded person, where most other vampires seem to just go after whatever they can. They don't seem to be very picky.
And why did he stop getting younger?
That's a good question. I don't know. I guess you just hit whatever your peak was, or maybe the age you were when you became a vampire.
Okay, I can get that. And as soon as I asked the question, I thought about that too.
I like
that was when he became a vampire.
I like that he gets older. I like that if he's not, apparently, I guess if he's not feeding, he just starts aging. And he can just get older and older to the point where he's like, okay, I should probably do something about this. And then he starts feeding on somebody.
Yeah, it was overall, this Dracula is absolutely worth a watch.
Totes.
The ending is suspect. Even I admit portions of it were. I just really liked how she came to it at the end. I liked how when she stood up at the very end and he's having this discussion with her, and he's like, oh, you're in pain. I'm equal to it.
Yeah, I did kind of like that. It was a little bit redeeming that they have this little scene of them two like kind of cuddling, and she's like, "Oh, you're feeding on me," and he goes, "After all this time, I wouldn't let you be in pain, or I wouldn't let you feel it, or whatever." Yeah, like after all this time, do you think I'd let you feel it? So I think that's what he says because she's dying of this cancer. Like she doesn't have much time left, so she's like, let's jump up on this table and run 30 feet down it and jump at the window and prove to him that you're just a big old pussy boy.
Is that what you are, Oswald? Weak little pussy boy?
Yeah, the inconsistencies in like what, and maybe that was the point of it, to be, you know, a bit ambiguous like that. Why, like, what is legend? What is true? Why is it? I actually really did enjoy the idea that him and the reason that these things affected him was more psychosomatic. And I enjoyed it, not because of how it was portrayed in this, because as we already said, like, you've seen some things in here, whether his powers or what happened to Lucy, you see some vampire stuff happen. And so that's a bit much. But when I see something new, something that hasn't been done before, and I had not seen a Dracula portrayed in quite this manner, he's not super unlike other Draculas we've seen in the fact that he's arrogant and he's an aristocrat and all these different things.
Sure.
But the way this person plays this character was great. The way it was written was super good. The fact that he brings in a lawyer was one of my favorite things of the whole series.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, right. Oh, rights? And like all of that was great. So I'm glad. It's nice to see something. They take something that you're used to and that you know, and they change it in a way or another. Like when we talked about Twilight, and I know some things, sparkly vampires or the things that went on. I liked that they took a risk to do something. Well, in this case, it's the writer, whoever wrote those books. I don't know. But that they took a risk and did something different and said, I know I'm not going to do the same thing. Everybody's already done with this. That I want to do something a little different, yet not so far away from the way it originally was to
Be
really to really upset people.
Or I like that they stuck with original lore for the most part and explored it. I do like the way they approached it with this, and you're convincing me to see it your way, because I really didn't like that ending. I'm starting to like it a little bit better now.
And as like I appreciated what I think they were trying to do. Did they really stick the landing? I agree with you. I don't know that they did. I ended up very much liking the nun's character.
Yeah.
Very much so, more than I expected. It was really this miniseries was about those two, and I kind of like how it ended with those two.
Yeah, except again, they weren't around each other that much.
They really weren't.
It was like a day, like a night at the convent, then for a little while on the ship, then she was awake on the ship, then she blew up the ship. They're not around each other that much. They have sort of brief encounters. It's like she's hearing stories about him. She meets him briefly. He does this stuff to her. She's then in this cabin, kind of not aware of what's going on. They interact for a little while on the ship. Then she dies. Then the new good guy is her great niece or whatever. And she kind of comes back into it through this blood thing. But again, they're around each other for a little while in the Institute. Then they're around each other for a little while, a couple months later. But I guess, you know, he's looking for this connection with people and this companionship, and she's somebody that he has known and interacted with. And maybe it's because she's the first person who's ever tried to understand him, that it's meaningful to him. So maybe that's it. I don't know. I might be giving him too much credit.
Maybe. I mean, I'd say as far as her goes, we don't really know how much time they spent together. It's a little bit ambiguous, like when in the convent they are and how long it takes to go from that to being on the boat at all.
True,
you don't really know,
like a month
but yeah,
before anything really, before he died, and then
even if it was a
castle, that's also goofy.
Even if it was a super short amount of time, you could still go back to what this series already established. It's in the blood, and so once I've drank, like, I feel like I have interacted with you and I know everything you know. And because of that, I feel connected. Like, well, I think he feels connected to all of the victims he's ever had. But with this one person specifically, it was a very unique duo throughout each one of the three of these in this series, and I just enjoyed it. I enjoyed him, I enjoyed her, I enjoyed their interactions, and that in my mind makes this worth the watch.
Totally agreed. A watch. Let us know how you feel about all of it, about any particular parts, about all the quotes, but particularly how you feel about the ending. Leave that in the comments. Email it to, I think we're moviehell@gmail.com. I think
so.
it's still active. I haven't been checking it. But yeah, I'd like to hear what anybody else has to say. I've watched some other videos about this before I thought we would do something like this. And other people have similar opinions to mine. A lot of the reviewers have similar opinions of like staking works, but the sun doesn't. I'm cool with some of it being psychosomatic, but why does the sun not
like that and so that you look at that leads me to other questions. Is it
the sun doesn't hurt him when it reflected off Johnny's medallion and it didn't do anything to him? Like when it reflected, everybody's like, ah, it's like, okay, that confirms the sun works. No. You didn't notice that didn't burn you?
I guess not.
Like, you should have figured out in 1890, whatever. Like, oh shit. Oh, I'm not in the sun.
Yeah, you've seen that. How many times have you ever seen that with other vampires? Who there's Sunlight, Blade 2, and Ron Perlman's character. He puts his hand up.
Yeah.
Like, telling me none of them have ever done that, but you Dracula, you've never done that? You've done that. Get out of here.
Right.
You know, like you unzipped it and were like, okay, all right, that's okay.
Oh my god.
So that's okay. Halligan's, that's how we feel about this. This was fun, but as my illustrious co-host Ryan here said, comment, let us know what you think, and even more importantly than that, what are we watching next? What are we going to talk about? How about something that you found that's a hidden gem somewhere? Is it Peacock? Is it Netflix? Is it HBO? Is it up your butt?
Is it Tubi?
I don't.
That's even worse.
That's what I just said.
Did you say? Oh, Tubi's up the butt.
Maybe, I don't know.
Tubi up the butt.
Or not to be. So let us know. What's the next thing we should watch? What do you want to hear about? And anything else you got? Is that it? Do you want to? No. All right. I've been Joe.
I'm Ryan.
We're out.